Hello, bookish people. Today, the final bit of Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollope. This is the final chapter 60 to 80. I actually finished this a little while ago. It's one of these books like, oh, okay, I need to get to that. I need to kind of tie a bow on the thing of which has actually been not bad because it's given me a bit of extra time to kind of just sort of think about this 1865 novel by Anthony Trollope, first of the Palliser series, where we follow kind of three threads of three women in their marriage processes. Mrs. Greenough, the widow Greenough, hers at the very last here, tying up, where she is actually the one lady who kind of goes against the grain and marries a rapscallion, but seems to have control over him, though the narrator still kind of respectfully disagrees whether this will indeed be a good marriage for her, but and shows the male is rather this rather pathetic creature who is going to be controlled by the purse strings of the woman. And it's interesting that is the plot thread that is given the most comedic treatment, which maybe is a way of making it more palatable to a Victorian audience. We're going to think about this as a comedic thing, that she's marrying this captain and he's sort of has to kind of play by her rules and on her beck and call. That has to be a comedic thing. Interestingly enough, you think about the two women, Lady Glencora and Alice Vavasor. They both in the end end up, spoilers, but I'm talking about the last 20 chapters of this book. They end up they end up with who society has sort of said this is who you should end up with, not the unsuitable men's. Lady Glencora, there's still a little to and fro with Bungo Fitzgerald, though Bungo Fitzgerald at the very end is definitely shown as this kind of washed up kind of gambling dude. They have the kind of a scene at a gambling hall where Lady Glencora comes upon him, and indeed Palliser ends up giving him basically a little pension to live in a no gambling town. So he's definitely dismissed, though it's interesting that the Trollope does have the thing of he makes it known, like, Lady Glencora actually does love Bungo Fitzgerald. There's no ifs, ands, or buts there. It's not like, oh, I changed my mind and now I love him, which, you think about that in a kind of a regular romantic comedy. It would be, oh, she would have changed her mind. She never changes her mind. She's always loves Bungo Fitzgerald. Bungo Fitzgerald. And, there's a whole thing about his male beauty, which I don't know if Trollope is the best author for getting across exactly how appealing this guy is, but I mean, it's there. That Lady Glencora is like, she loves him, and there's a part of that I think is like that's female desire, which is interesting. Alice as well ends up with John Grey. George Vavasor is most definitely shown as a villain. Sort of in true Trollope fashion, like, we have a literal, he shoots at John Grey, but he misses, and then he's off on his way to the colonies. Pushed out of the novel. There's not going to be any spine tingler thing here. It's like he's ruined himself. He lost his election, and now he's off to the colonies. So Trollope has definitely kind of taken care of all that. And she ends up with John Grey, and she sort of ends up doing this, coming around to all these people who tell her, oh, I forgive you, darling. And she's always to herself, she's thinking, it's like, yeah, I don't care about your forgiveness. And I think as the readers were, I think, that's a big thing about this book. It's called Can You Forgive Her? And it's a book about judgment. And it's a book about how readers, we, the dear reader, judge the characters that we read. And a part of the pleasures of novel reading is doing that judging, but also it's just maybe Trollope kind of pointing the finger. When you point a finger at someone, you're pointing all those other fingers back at yourself. it's like all the people that are judging Alice, those are the people that we end up kind of making judgments against in a way. Alice holds herself. Alice doesn't forgive herself, as much like I think any certain kind of characters today or certain kind of people today have a lot more trouble forgiving ourselves for anything than anyone else. And indeed, that's what sort of has to happen to a degree for her to be able to accept the good fortune of someone like John Grey, who gets tempered a bit. I mean, at the beginning, this is the thing with Trollope. Trollope is so good at setting up one case for a thing and then sort of shifting the furniture. How do I put this? John Grey at the beginning seems like such a virtuous prig that you're like, yeah, no, this isn't the guy for Alice. But by the end, it's like, oh, well, he's not actually a virtuous prig. And I almost feel like Trollope's cheating with me, making him more appealing by the end versus kind of keeping him as a virtuous prig that Alice ends up marrying. And of course, also arranging things so that he does go into politics, which sort of gives Alice a little bit of extra kind of gravy, a little extra bit of happiness there. So yeah, I mean, it's one of these books where I think I still would have been happier if Alice had maybe gone away with Kate and they'd been spinsters together or something like that. I feel kind of, there's the whole thing of just like, how well do I feel that, at the end, the women went with what was expected of them. They did the right thing. And this is depicted as, yes, this is the right thing, and it was the way to make themselves happier. That if Lady Glencora had been with Mungo Fitzgerald, that would have been a terrible mistake, and she would have been miserable for the rest of her life with the man she loved. And that George Vavasor, she was just completely fooling herself and had been snowed in by her friend about her brother, about George Vavasor, that he was actually, a really terrible person. Which is, it's sort of like a blow for keeping things for society does know best, that your elders do know best, and I guess as a modern reader I struggle against that. So it's a happy ending, but there's a core in there of Trollope, of like this just sort of desire, of individual female desire and want that you can feel is sort of boiling around in there, that is unsatisfied, that is kind of this gnawing kind of niggle at the end of this, what's kind of quote unquote a happy ending. And it's just interesting that the comedic story, which I was sort of dismissive of, I enjoyed, it was funny in parts, but I didn't take it seriously. But like, well, actually that's the story where she just, she married well the first time to an older guy, he died, and then she made her own mind up. And she made her own decisions, and she's going to live with him, and maybe it's not going to be the perfect marriage, but what marriage is the perfect marriage? And, she's got her desire. She married the hot guy, but she's married a hot guy that she's going to keep for herself. And it's like, yeah, it's interesting that that's the comedic side plot, that it's just going to suggest things. So in the end, I think throughout the book, I kind of questioned, well, why is Greenough in here, this comedic character with this kind of, silly rivalry between the farmer and the kind of, and the disgraced captain? Like, why isn't that in there? And it's like, by the end, it's like, oh, I can sort of see why this is in there, and that sort of the subversiveness of Trollope, if you're going to look for subversiveness or kind of battling tendencies in Trollope, are in there, of this very kind of what seems like a very conservative novel, but has some kind of, we're not gonna shut everything down. We're not gonna make everybody into little automatons who are going to fall into line. So yeah, that's my reading reaction of Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollope. And yes, I'll be looking forward to whenever we get to the next of the Palliser novels. We've done Can You Forgive Her? I've now caught up and done Can You Forgive Her? Done Phineas Finn, done the Eustace Diamonds, and I guess Phineas Redux will be coming along soon, and I'll be able to glory in my thrills of wanting to strangle poor Phineas Finn again. And his yes. So Well, looking forward to that. Just check out Steve Donoghue's read along of this novel and the other novels if you haven't done it already. If you somehow dropped into my final little summation of Can You Forgive Her? If you've somehow dropped into this and stumbled into this and not know Steve Donoghue's name echoing through the internet, yes. So I'm gonna go out and walk the dogs. More videos later.